Hey, welcome to another episode of the Fit Growth Machine podcast. I'm Brian Roisentul, your host, and today we're going to talk about some pretty relevant and exciting stuff. I mean, if you own or work for an e-commerce brand and you see less traction from your paid ad efforts, audiences getting smaller, costs going up, cookies going away in 2024, and you don't know what to do about it, then listen to this episode as my guest, Aaron Bennett, is going to give you a lot of tips and actionable information to set your e-commerce brand for success. Aaron has 20 plus years of experience in digital marketing, was selected as a CMS Wire Impact Award judge, and has grown both small and enterprise level businesses. That's a lot of experience. So please stay tuned. As before talking to him, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. At BSR Digital, we help e-commerce brands that want to scale their business to the next level through Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads. Yes, after the iOS 13 update. Now more than ever, we understand that it's really important to level up the marketing and design a solid strategy, as what used to work doesn't anymore. So if your e-commerce brand lacks a solid plan and professional team to increase sales, we can help the same way we have helped more than 1,000 brands like yours for over a decade. To learn more, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com, and you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have Aaron here with me. Hey, man, thanks for being on the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. I mean, I'm super excited about this episode in particular because there are many, many things going on. Everyone is talking about the same thing, like the front end problems, let's say, but there are like way too many more moving parts when it comes to e-commerce, right? So I think that we can give them pretty actionable advice on what they should look at, not only when it comes to paid ads or email marketing, right? So I'm pretty excited, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've always said in digital marketing, if one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing, something is not working as well as it should. And digital marketing is one of those things where every little bit counts. Every little switch, every little audience, everything you do, every little tweak makes a difference.
Yeah.
And sometimes the smallest difference will make the biggest impact.
Yeah, for sure. So please start by introducing yourself if you want, telling more the audience about your background and your story.
Sure. So I've, like you said, I've had 20 plus years of digital marketing. I've worked on large clients like Nissan North America, other smaller clients across the board on helping digital analytics, counting, A/B testing, Google Ads, advanced strategies. I've set up complete architectures and marketing stacks for other customers. And here I'm going to talk a little bit about what GA4 can do for you. Google has, I'm sure everybody's seen the banner on top of the Google Analytics account where they're saying that Google Analytics is going away in July 2023. And they want everybody to switch over to GA4. So what does that mean for you? So Google Analytics, as you've known it for the last 20 some years, is completely different in GA4. What you see now is event tracking instead of session-based tracking. And that is the largest difference in trying to wrap your head around something. When before you were able to look at a user's entire session in the pathway, you're no longer able to do that. You're only allowed to see what events you've sent to GA4. Now, this has some advantages and some disadvantages. Advantages are now that you can wrap up your app development. So if you have mobile apps and mobile app ads, you can see them coming into GA4 with specific events. If you have some advanced layer items that used to be only available in GA360, which is very expensive. I believe it's $150,000 a month. Most people aren't able to afford that. Those features are now available for free in GA4. Connecting those to Google Ads is one of the most influential things you can do for your GA4 and Google Ads account.
Okay, so let's stop for a sec and clarify for the audience, just in case you don't know. What's an event? I mean, is it a visit and add to cart for an e-commerce? I mean, what's an event?
Sure. So an event is anything that happens on your website. A click is an event. A page view is an event. A page view event is a page view now. So everything is registered and kept in events. One of the cool things, and this is getting into the little weeds a little bit, but you have up to 50 different parameters you can send with an event. And what this means is basically you have 50 different dimensions to look at that action of event. Later, you can determine that a certain event meant something more valuable. You can go back in history up to 14 months, depending on your settings, and go back and track that event. Any conversion you make from that event moving forward will be only counted from that time forward, but you always have that data previously. So an event is anything that happens on your website: a scroll, a page view, a click, a link click, a form, a download, anything that comes in that type of event. There are many, many different types of events. You can make custom events. So there really are a limited amount of events that you can send into GA4.
Okay, makes sense. And you said before that, they're waiting until the end of, you said 2023, and we know cookies are not going away until 2024. So should brands wait, until 2023 or mid 2023, or why do you think they shouldn't, in case you think that?
Well, one of the hardest things to wrap your head around is what analytics will look like in the future. If you don't install and load up your Google Analytics 4 installation now, you already are late for year-over-year data. You won't have an overlap for that period of time. Only people that have installed their GA4 instance before July of 2022, you will have year-over-year completed data. I always recommend using GA Analytics and GA4 in tandem with each other. That way you can see how they're different. They do count differently. Your numbers will not match exactly between the two systems. One of the other major items is that Universal Analytics, GA3, has had 20 years of development on basic reporting. There are no basic reports in GA4. You have to build what reports you would like to see. And this gives the user a lot of flexibility, but it also makes the learning curve pretty steep.
Okay. So I'm trying to think, because this is interesting, because one thing I said in the intro is that, things are crazy. I mean, it's a crazy year, right? Particularly this year, because
Absolutely.
we thought COVID was crazy, right? But somehow this year is like, it has like more factors, at play. Recession, supply chain issues, and many, many things. They add, the iOS 14, 15 updates and all stuff, making the costs higher, audiences smaller, more challenging to find the audiences that were super easy. So is there a way that through GA4 brands can leverage first party data, or it could build audiences, or what can they do about it, and how can it help?
Sure, so absolutely. So one of the neat things that you can do with GA4 are building audience. And if you're used to Google Analytics, they've had something called segments before. Segments are something that you can build into an audience in GA3, and GA4 uses that primarily. Now, what is an audience? An audience is how you define it. So let's take some real world examples. An audience would be someone that went to your checkout page but didn't actually check out. You could actually look at the event that went to checkout event page and then exclude purchase event page. And now you have an audience built out for your checkout abandonment. So now you can go and send that to Google Ads directly, and using broad-based or selective keyword terms, use display advertising or search to limit and lower your CPC costs. Adding an audience is usually something that is done really on the display side of Google Ads primarily. A lot of people use it in that fashion. You're looking at intent. You're looking at different characteristics. What Google GA4 does for you is it looks at the user profile. Google, being Google, knows who that user is, but the algorithm knows. Google doesn't know. You don't know as a user, Google Analytics user, but the algorithm knows who that person is. They know their behavior. What they do is the algorithm groups things together and users' behavior that look like the user that performed the action you're wanting. So now you can turn that retargeting audience into a lookalike audience. You want to go find people that want to go out and check out on your page. Even better, build a lookalike audience off of your purchase information. Now, there are some digital data thresholds and effectiveness. And what you want to do really is build a conversion funnel. A type of what you need to look at are your high-level conversions, your mid-level conversions, and your bottom-level purchase conversions. And build out a conversion funnel with campaigns and audiences against each step of your funnel. You want to eventually tweak your messaging to the top funnel. Maybe it's a different message than somebody that's trying to convert and they've already know about your product. Finally, the lookalike audience purchase at the end, you can thank them, keep them involved. A best customer is a return customer. They're the cheapest to keep and the best to have. So retargeting the purchase customers with new products, new innovations, new items, making sure that you have the ability to do that with your newsletters, but keeping all of that intact, and you'll have now a purchase funnel, conversion funnel, feeding the algorithm in Google Ads to lower your CPC at every level.
Very interesting, because that's actually a funnel that belongs to you as a brand and not to Facebook or not to, to Google, right? But not to Google Ads or not to any platform. So it's very interesting. And I got a question for you. Not that this didn't happen before, but now it's happening way more, which is that brands used to, spend their efforts, online, e-commerce brands, right? We're spending their efforts on, organic, some SEO, and then some Google ads, or probably some paid social as well, Facebook, Instagram. Now they are all over the place, right? They are doing too many things because what used to work doesn't work anymore, and they need to diversify more than ever, right? So we have always had issues with getting Google Analytics, the default configuration of Google Analytics, to have all the accurate information from all the non-Google channels, Google Ads and YouTube. So those were pretty inaccurate, unless we constantly, update import them or keep the APIs updated and sync the data. Does that change with GA4, or do we still have to customize or to import many, conversion values from Facebook or other platforms, costs, all those stuff?
So yes and no. You should always have tracking set up for Google Analytics on all of your channels, UTM, the categories, the campaigns, actions. Those UTM tags will still continue to function in GA4. And they're used much like I mentioned parameters earlier. Category is now a parameter. And the different levels of your UTM campaigns are different parameters. So they effectively become different dimensions of looking at something in Google Analytics form. When you look at that data, you always want to make sure that tracking is coming in for all the users. Now, some of the cool stuff that is different in GA4 is the attribution modeling that's involved. Because everything is at an event level, no longer at a session level, Google Analytics can actually see the same user come through multiple events in multiple channels. And it uses, and you can pick which attribution model you would like to apply to your Google Analytics account. The recommended default setting now is a data-driven attribution model, which is not something you were able to have in Google Analytics regular. It was last touch, single session, that was it. And you had to really dig deep into your attribution modeling and know what you what were you looking for in order to get the answers you wanted. Out of the box, GA4 is going to use a data-driven attribution model. It also gives you an attribution modeling tool out of the box, so you can compare the different values and see which one is looking at. A lot of differences I'm getting from clients now are, why is my differences in attribution so different? Well, data attribution looks at someone that comes in at social, then they come in and they see that they did a search ad, then it comes in and then they said they purchased off of the direct. That's 3 different sessions, 3 different user qualities, and Google Analytics sees all of them as individual steps in the process. It will tie all that information together and give a little bit of attribution to the beginning channels and more to the end, depending on the data-driven model. Now, that is a black box. I can't tell you which one is weighed more than the other. It's the algorithm. But you can see the differences in looking at the modeling and see how data-driven is different from last touch and how much variance you have. Really, if you have a lot of variance between your data-driven model and your last touch attribution, then I would think that you have a higher purchase price on your item. It's a more difficult. It's like buying a car or buying a house. It's a longer buying decision. You need more education. Hospitality industry is much the same. Where do you want to go on vacation? People look around a lot, and then they take time to look around. Those types of things are different than if you're just selling an e-commerce store, selling a $5 widget, where you're going to have a lot more last touch attribution attributed to your campaigns. So it really kind of depends on your industry, what your product is, what you're actually trying to accomplish with these goals. Which brings up another good point, is that GA4 no longer has goals. They have conversions based off events. You are limited to 25 goals. I have to check on that number, conversions. But basically any event that you can have, you can turn into a conversion. From conversions, you can build audiences, you can build reports, you can send that data to GCM if you have campaign manager and floodlight information. You can send it to DV360 if you're doing advanced DV display targeting. 95% of the people out there are going to be sending this stuff to Google Ads. And then you can build audiences and do cool things targeting those people that look like the people that do different conversions, which goes back to the conversion funnel. One of the things that I've seen recently is Google has kind of flipped the script on how Google Ads has worked. Since 2003 or 2004, when I started using Google Ads, it used to be very specific information, very specific tags, very specific keywords and landing pages gave you the best CPC. That's no longer the case anymore. What I've seen recently within the last 6 months or so is a shift. Google Ads and Google is being treated more like display in the world of ad tech. In display, you have your lookalike audiences and your cookie pools, and you go out and you try and find the people that look like the people that you want to target. Google Ads was all about intent and search intent. That's changing. Because the algorithms know who the users are, they can predetermine the intent of the user and give them different search results. So let's say I have a specific user profile A, and that person purchases on my website quite a bit. I make an audience to find user profile A. User profile B now is someone different. They just like to look. They're not really in the market. They're just playing around. Google Analytics knows that intent level, or Google knows that intent level by the search. If you target a specific keyword with a GA4 audience against your purchaser, it might serve it to someone who fits the profile A, but not the profile B, saving you money.
That's pretty cool. I haven't never heard of that before. So you don't need to do some, I mean, what do you need to do as a brand or as a advertiser, let's say, even if it's in-house or not, like as an advertiser, what do you need to do to benefit from that? Do you need to do something on GA4, you said?
Yeah, so absolutely first set up GA4, make sure your data going in is good. It's always garbage in, garbage out. So make sure your data going in is perfect. As much data as you can feed the algorithm, the better. As many parameters and different dimensions of knowledge, types of products, categories, pricing, whatever you find in your ecom layer that you normally would in enhanced e-commerce, you can send that data to GA4 as well. There's a little difference in schema and whatnot, but for the most part, it works right out of the box with the old analytics setup. But given that information over to Google Ads, making sure you have GA set up, making sure you have Google Ads connected to your GA4 account, start building those audiences, because the audiences start when you start. You cannot pre-load previous audience information. So the sooner the better. You start building those things up, and as many people as you get in there, once you hit 1,000 people or so, it really starts to kick off on the algorithm, and it really starts to learn who your people are.
That's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, so that's why you think that linking, GA4 products is a critical feature. I mean, feeding the algorithm with more data about what you sell.
Yeah, absolutely. So linking them together links basically the back ends. So it will share more information privately, than what you can do on the public atmosphere. Even if you anonymize all your user IDs and send those into Google and upload spreadsheets from your CRM, if Google knows the Google user ID on both Google Ads and Google Analytics, which is your CID value, then it knows.
Okay. Are there any other? Yes, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, privacy is a big thing, and they keep everything anonymous. Even the people at Google don't really know how, all of the algorithm pieces work. Nobody really does, which is scary and fun at the same time, because now you can see and play with it and manipulate it.
Yeah, 100%. So I was going to ask you if there are any other tools, about, to manage data that e-commerce brands can leverage, or any type of tool.
So, yeah, one of the other free factors of GA4 that was only available in the paid version previously is connection to BigQuery. BigQuery is Google's GCP, Google Cloud Platform's data warehouse. It is a SQL-based data system. It requires a credit card to open an account, but it's $5 per terabyte for storage, which is relatively nothing. Most websites can go a whole year without producing a terabyte's worth of data, depending on what you send into it and how much traffic you have. But loading it into BigQuery, assigning it to a project, putting a credit card on there so you can keep, the other thing is if you don't put a credit card on there, you're only allowed to keep 60 days of data within BigQuery, which is great, but the point of BigQuery is to keep it long-term. One of the things that Google is doing now with GA4 is they have a data retention policy. By default is only 2 months. So you have a rolling 60 days of data within GA4. Within the settings in the UI, make sure you change that to 14 months. That will give you at least 2 months over your year-over-year data to play with on everything. Anything that you build in Google Analytics 4, in a report, any dimension, any metric will stay forever. Anything that's not built in a report or kept in that system in the Explorer mode will be ejected after the 14 months. Loading it to BigQuery keeps all of that data forever. So you can then go back and, if you have some SQL scientists or some people that know SQL, they can dig into the data and, build your dashboards and look at historic data rather than just current data or 14 months worth of data. So that's always great to have, especially as things change on your website, things post and you do new articles, you get new traction and different things. You want to see your data over time. And Google Analytics, Universal Analytics, as long as you had the account, had data in it. It only does that if you make a report out of that data. So not that this would ever happen, but if I never made a page view report and I didn't turn on anything out of the box, that page view data would only last for 2 months. That's not going to help you. So changing the data to 14 months, making sure that you keep it in BigQuery and build your reports, dig into the data, building your custom dimensions out and really exploring the different products that you have. For instance, making product category a dimension. Now you can build a report based off product category, not just something that you saw in your e-commerce later that you had to dig 4 or 5 clicks down into. So there are a lot of advantages in GA4. The data is there, but you do have to manipulate it a little bit more to get what you had out of the box out of GA3.
Yeah, so those are very, very important tips. Thank you for that, Aaron, because I think one changing, from 60 days, I think it's set to 14 months. It's crucial because if you're switching from GA to GA4 to only keep 2 months of data, probably it's not good, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, why do they do that by default? I mean, I think they are trying to get rid of people that are not going to use this seriously and stop accumulating data that is useless for everyone, right? But I don't know. But the second one is key too, because, right, if you don't make a report out of something that you want to see, and then you say, oh, I switched it to 14 months, and now, I don't see this data. So you can always, get BigQuery to, I mean, you say $5 for 5 terabytes?
$5 per terabyte, yeah.
Per terabyte?
For storage.
I mean,
for active storage, if you use it.
Yeah, for many brands, it's equivalent to 1 year or more of data, as you said. So it's nothing for a brand.
Pennies. Yeah, you're spending pennies.
Yeah, exactly.
To keep that data, which is invaluable. It's priceless information that you're going to be keeping for very, very little.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't need it today, but that doesn't mean that you need it in the future. So you never know. So is it really? I mean, we don't want to get into the nuances right now, but is it really straightforward to do it? Is it visible, or is it you need to really look for the option to get BigQuery within GA4?
It's in your admin settings under properties. Towards the bottom, you'll see linking properties and different Google products. So if you create your GA4 account, in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see admin. And then towards that middle column, towards the bottom, you'll see your BigQuery link. And
yeah,
it will ask you.
Everything's in your mind, man. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. You'll see it, and it will ask you for a project ID, and that's all it needs on the GA4 interface. You'll have to log into GCP console and create your account and put in a credit card and add billing. There are plenty of walkthroughs and how-tos out there. Google itself wants to make it easy for you to do this because, hey, they want you to store your data in BigQuery too.
That's awesome. That's great. Everything you have said so far is really interesting. And I think very actionable for everyone listening. So you better take action after this interview. One thing I wanted to ask you is, like, by the time this episode airs, it'll be really, I mean, we'll be really getting close to Black Friday and all those commercial dates, and of course the holiday season, right? So do you have, I don't know, any advice for e-commerce brands for this time of the year, or it could be for 2023 because the year is almost over, right? So is there anything that they should do before the holiday season starts or during?
I would say, I said it earlier, I said it before, build your audiences as soon as you can. As soon as you get GA4 in there, day 2 is audience building day. Just go through and build as many as you think you can for specific pages, different product categories, different, if you have a different menu structure and you can go to the types of, items that you're selling, keep all of those as different audiences as much as you can, differentiate them and let them grow. The more data you feed into the system, the more you'll benefit for combining those items and making exclusionary type. You can get really creative. I love people that want to buy widget A but don't want widget B. That kind of correlations you can get really fancy with. If you have the also bought items on your list, have those loaded as a separate item, an event to which ones got shown along with your product. Then you can build an audience to retarget the people off the other items that they wanted to upsell with. It's really the ability to turn anything into an audience in GA4, to me, is one of the coolest things you have. In Universal Analytics, you had to build them through segments. You were limited by what you could do in dimensions and custom dimensions, what you have. There are no limits to the custom dimensions. Well, 25, but way more than you had previously. There are no limits to the types of events you can send into Google Analytics. I can make custom event A, B, C, D, E, F, all as individual triggers in GTM, send them all in individually. And now GTM, Google Analytics 4, has all this data on these different types of users. So the audience building and segment building in GA4 to me is one of the coolest new features, being able to link it to GCM and DV360 for those more larger businesses, or even if your ad agency is using those systems, link it. You can link your Google GA4 account to their GCM account and send the data and audiences directly to them. Help them help you.
I like that. And I like the way you put it, day one, get GA4, day two, build the audiences. What can they do day 3, 4, 5 in a few words, Sage?
Yeah, so know your audience and figure out what your audience profiles. Once you start getting those people in there, look at the difference between demographics, look at your differences between income levels or locations, depending on, what type of business and area you're trying to do. But look for those differences in in the way you can talk to your audience. I'm a MarTech guy. Been doing digital and technology most of my career. You're only as good as your creative, ever. So the best MarTech in the world, you have the best MarStack, everything's connected, perfect, and you have a stick man on a black white picture, you're not going to get any action.
Yeah, 100%. I agreed. Everything is, about leveling up the marketing and having better creatives, and not even better creatives. It's like, to the point, on point, and, hitting pain points, desires, needs. So that's very important. And
I
this,
think it's really
yeah, sorry.
I think it's really a deficiency in advertising right now. Everything is very cold. Sorry. And people are too involved in the variations of A/B testing to look at the back up one more level and see what your message you're actually trying to convey. Linking your specific audiences with your specific messages is the goal. That's where you want to be. And if this is off, it's not going to perform this best.
That was great advice, Aaron. Everything you said was a masterclass for, on GA4. So many things I didn't know, at least me, and I'm sure many of you guys listening didn't know either, and are pretty crucial, to implement as soon as you get in your hands on, GA4. So what to use this for, what you need to tweak to avoid losing data. You need what to do if you want to know more about your audience or behaviors, the events they perform, and even lookalike audiences, and what you need to do in case you want to store more data historically, and take a look, a few years in the future back to see what happened. You need to build reports in order to avoid losing data. Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong at any point. I'm just trying to do a quick.
No, you're spot on.
Because it was great. I'm trying to repeat things. That's the way I learn too. So I wanted to make sure that that's in my mind, because that's a great advice, and it's really useful for me and for everyone listening. So this has been great. So just to wrap up, I usually, ask my guests, as everyone know by now here, about their favorite books. It could be business or non-business books, and, some mentors, or it could be even industry influencers that you follow.
I'm very big on the blogs, very big on the, reading materials online. By the time things get published into books, it's usually too late for me. in the digital world. But a couple people I pay attention to is Simo Ahava on the GTM Tag Manager world, and Charles Farina on GA4, two highly credible experts in their field. And the rest of it is just paying attention to the Google blogs. They actually tell you more than they're saying between the lines.
That's great. That's great. So where can people go to learn more about you and your company?
Sure, you can find me at aebdigitalconsulting.com. I have a little contact form there. You can fill it out and I'll be happy to reach out to you for my services. I have a list of services there as well, but aebdigitalconsulting.com.
Okay. You've been great, Aaron. As you know, as always, you can go check the show notes. You will find all the resources Aaron mentioned in the links there at fitgrowthmachine.com. Or if you're checking out this in the audio version, you can feel free to check it there. Aaron, you've been great. Thanks a lot for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Brian. It's been a pleasure, and I'll happily do this again.
Awesome. Yeah, it'd be my pleasure. Thank you.